Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Agostino Simonetta, as the accent is probably giving away, and I'm responsible for the ID at Xbox program in Europe. And
Hi, I'm Andy Carr. I'm a developer account manager with Xbox. So my job is basically helping anybody that'd like to make games on our platform get there. Largely technical, but really a point of contact for a developer when they want to make games for our platforms.
And this afternoon, we don't really want to go through 40 minutes of presentation without any interaction, leaving the questions at the end. There are going to be some slides where we want to deliver you guys the full message, but the idea is that it's going to be as interactive as possible. So this is a workshop, and so we have time to go through this. Don't be shy. Stop us any point, raise your hands, and we get a question. I need to ask a favor, the organizers. Sorry? Could you ask the kitchen to switch off the radio? Because that's the only thing I can probably hear from over here, is the music. So I don't want to start a dancing routine. Anyway, thanks for coming. Before we start with the presentation, how many of you are PC developer? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you are Xbox or console developers? So I have a background. Okay. Slightly less. How many of you are using Unity? And how many Unreal or your own technology? Okay, that's interesting. There is quite a balance between Unity and your own technology. And mobile developer, mobile only? Okay, that's fine. That helps us. So, developing for ID at Xbox, when me and Andrew started our career in video games, there was no opportunity to self-publish your product on digital platform. We were working developers that had, even if independent, like my case was independent, you were independent to the point that you needed a publisher to go to retail. You guys have the fantastic opportunity, thanks to the digital revolution, to, if you wish, develop your content, self-fund, self-market, self-publish. You can do the end-to-end. And today we want to talk to you about what ID at Xbox means for you guys here. Now, I say this at all my presentations. If there is one thing you will remember of this presentation, is that link, xbox.com/dev. That is the portal to anything that is gaming on the Windows ecosystem, not just Xbox, but the entire Windows ecosystem. So via that, you can go and register as an ID at Xbox developer. You can get information about Windows 10, register for Dev Center. So take a picture, write it down. It's pretty straightforward. It's the most important thing you want to take away from this presentation. So quickly through the agenda. So we want to talk to you guys about Windows 10 and the Universal Windows Platform. How many of you have been following our announcement about Windows 10 and the Universal Application Platform? So quite a few of you in the room know something about it already, so you're going to be able to ask questions pretty quickly when we get to the slide. We want to talk about the ID at Xbox program across the entire ecosystem, not just Xbox. And it will give you like an overview of what it means from a development point of view, the Windows 10 coming and how you can bring your content to Windows 10 and platforms. A bit of what opportunity and how you can maximize what you're doing with your products in our ecosystem. And then Q&A, but the Q&A is going to be throughout. Really, for the people that join us slightly later, we want to make this as interactive as possible. There's no point for us to talk for 40 minutes and then do a few questions. Just ask questions when a question arises. So on the 21st of January in Seattle, we did a big event to talk to everybody, consumers, developers, the media, about Windows 10. And Windows 10 for us has been a journey that started a long time ago. And what is delivering or will deliver is one core operating system, one store, and one application platform. So the great thing is that we have one operating system that will work across the full ranges of Windows devices. It goes from phone to phablet to Xbox, desktop, HoloLens. Effectively, it's the same operating system across the board. It's the first time an operating system is bringing together all those different form factors. From a development point of view, what is actually important is that with the introduction of the Universal Windows Platform, we allow you guys, effectively with a single code base, to target all the devices that are Windows 10 devices. We used to call desktop or consoles platforms, but actually from the announcement of Windows 10 is our platform. And all those different devices are just different form factors, different endpoints for a common platform that is Windows 10. If you followed GDC, we were quite happy to announce that the Idea at Xbox program that was announced in August 2013 at Gamescom is extending from Xbox to the entire Windows ecosystem. In the next few slides, I will explain what that means. So, how many of you are familiar with Idea at Xbox? Good. It means there are plenty of people in the room that want to know, and just a few who knows about it, so that's the right balance. So, the Idea at Xbox program is the self-publishing program for independent developers on Xbox One, but also with Windows 10 elements to it. Give you full access to all the features of the Xbox One, including Xbox Live Full Stack, Kinect. Effectively gives you full access to the power of the platform and the feature of the platform. And on Windows 10, will allow you to get access as an Idea at Xbox partner to the Xbox Live stack on all the Windows 10 devices. More on that in a second. We do provide to developers that are keen on working on Xbox 2 dev kits completely free. When we designed Idea at Xbox, we looked at all the barriers that could stop independent developer from maximizing their potential and be free to focus on their creativity. And the first barrier has always been dev kits. And the idea was that team, especially with the use of Unity or Unreal engines that are multi-platform, would be able, with a limited amount of hardware, to start a product and deliver the product. So we decided to give 2 free dev kits to everybody. And free Xbox Unity license. When we launched the program, Unity was the #1 engine used by independent developers. So we wanted to make sure that we took care of the cost of the license for the Xbox One platform. And also, when you get the dev kits, you will also get a Visual Studio license completely free as part of the package that you get with the dev kits. You get a Visual Studio license. And it doesn't matter how many times we talk about it and we tweet about it. And if you follow myself, Chris Charla, or the Idea at Xbox account on Twitter, we're always tweeting about this. There are no fees for certification or updates, or call them updates or patches. And you can do as many as you want, as regularly as is possible. We just like to reiterate that message. And one message that we didn't put on the slides, but I think it's important when we get to this point, is console has traditionally been slightly harder to develop for and to launch a product on. But we've done a lot of work to make sure that our processes are as injury-friendly as possible. So lowering the amount of time, simplifying the process. And one of the great things is that when you have your product and you're ready for submission of your product, you will have to do a single submission that will allow you guys to launch your product on a global level. So it's a single submission, just one, for all the regions. You will do that once. You will launch on all the stores that you decide to support. There is only one team you're talking to when you want to discuss your marketing opportunity or you agree a marketing support. That is the global level. There's no regional focus. Idea at Xbox is a global program. And as I said, for people that are just entering now, if you have any question, ask now. But what are our goals? Well, one of the goals we had in mind when we launched the program, it was to enable teams of all sizes to bring new and exciting content to Xbox One at a time and Windows 10 now. We have seen with the democratization of development, very, very small studio coming out with amazing ideas. And we wanted to make sure that we would enable those tiny micro studios to do that. We have a couple of studios in the UK. The one I always mention is Drop Dead Interactive, working on a title called Gear Gauntlet. Just Google it. has already been covered by IGN and Kotaku, and it's two guys that started doing that game in their spare time. Both of them have a day job. Steve is a teacher, Jay is an IT consultant. And they started doing this in the evening, and when they contacted ID at Xbox, they didn't really believe they could do that. Jay has twin daughters, 4 years old. I don't even know how he does that, having two kids myself. And in March, we did EGX in London. We showcased the product, got massive critical success. And that for us is important that we allow the more established studio like Team 17 or Curve Studios to be on the platform, but we really want all the studio, even people doing it in the living room, to be able to deliver the products. And we want to foster innovation and experimentation from the free dev kits, free Unity. We're trying to address all the barriers that you guys might have in front of you so you can actually focus on be creative and delivering your vision. And one thing we do like is that developers quite often come to us with feedback. Sometimes it's great feedback, and it's always rewarding when you get great feedback, but it's even better or more positive in a way when developers feel that they can give us negative feedback or suggest changes, and we keep listening to that. So it's very, very important that developers, if they think something is not quite right or they don't like it, they talk to us. And a lot of focus has been put on creating a thriving and sustainable ecosystem. What I mean from that, it goes from the tool we offer, the dev kits and all that, but also make sure that we do support ID at Xbox developer all the way through publishing and provide an ecosystem and rules and that you can thrive and be commercially successful. So a lot of emphasis is going in there, and part of the emphasis in making sure that we support you guys wherever we can. We have a couple of titles that will be announced coming from Poland later on today, so I'm not going to name the titles, but we're working very close with the Polish community now, and actually we increase our effort in Europe. I joined 7 months ago to increase our effort in Europe, and being here today is one of the signs of what we're doing. And if we're successful, then we're going to have a huge variety of cool games for players on Xbox and Windows 10, and so far we're very, very proud of what we achieved. So where are we with the program? Lots of games launched so far on Xbox One. You just need to go on the store on our website to see how many great games are coming to the Xbox. And as of today, we have more than 900 studios with dev kits in their office. We keep sending dev kits out. We try to be as fast as we can. We try to prioritize studios that need the dev kits very urgently or as soon as possible. And we have thousands and thousands of people applying, so we need to prioritize. And sometimes we don't know the developer, we don't know the game, and it's difficult. And so we have people reaching out to us on Twitter, say, I haven't got my dev kits, this is my game. And then we reach out and look at the game and onboard people. It's a matter of prioritizing. There are hundreds of games currently in development. As usual, with independent games or even AAA games, it's very hard to predict when they're going to come out. So we always ask, how many titles are you going to have? Yeah, we don't know. Well, we do know that at the moment, the ecosystem is very, very healthy, and we're very happy, and developers are very happy with the results they're seeing. So, and obviously, we're talking about Windows 10, and today here, I was in Russia last week, the entire team is working on Windows 10, explaining it to the developer, explaining the opportunity, and bringing games to the Windows 10 ecosystem. And we've done a lot of work. So I talked about an ecosystem, the store, but a lot of work that we're doing is to make sure that we amplify the marketing and promotional opportunities for individual titles. I start from the store. People are always asking about promotion on the store, but we take a more 360-degree approach to it. Your promotion it's not all about the store. That might be important. It is important, but the focus needs to be from the moment you announce your product. So today we're working with a couple of developers that will announce their product coming to Xbox, and we are supporting them in our own channel. We were at GDC with tons of ID at Xbox title. As we have been discussing on Twitter a lot, we are working on E3 at the moment. You can expect a lot of things coming out at that point. It's very, very important that all the different opportunities we support independent developers. And we do understand that for an independent developer, it's impossible to have a booth at E3 or Gamescom. So we always try to have ID at Xbox present where Xbox is present. So this is overview of the program. Any questions so far? We just need the first person to ask one, and then I think the flood will be open. So what I want to talk to you next is about the Microsoft ecosystem. And we're saying circa 2015 because there are a lot of moving parts. Windows 10 has not launched, and there are a lot of things. This is what we're working on, and we are planning to deliver in 15 and in the immediate future. So we talked about the universal platform that will address all of these devices, and actually coming on this side. And one of two things I want to point out. HoloLens, we're not going to focus on HoloLens today. The only thing that I can say is absolutely fantastic, and we're going to keep you guys updated with what we're going to do with HoloLens. And the second one, the fact that we have two Xboxes, that doesn't mean we are announcing a new Xbox today here at Digital Dragon. It's just to talk about the different path that you have developed to Xbox. So for the first part of this slide, I want to focus on I guess for you is the right side of this slide. So Windows 10 is coming. And Windows 10 is supported by the Universal Windows platform. So what are your opportunities as a developer on Windows 10? I want to start from the bottom. So Windows was, is, and always will be an open platform. As a developer, that means that you can work with a publisher and publish on the publisher website. You can work self-publish on Steam, the Zura. You can self-release on your website. Nothing has or will change. Said that, Windows 10 is the best operating system for gaming ever, with DirectX 12 coming and all the improvements we have made. So even if you're not working with Microsoft, Win 10 will be the best operating system. And one thing is worth mentioning now, probably as we're talking about your opportunities, is we announced in January that Win 10 will be a free upgrade for anybody from Windows 7 upwards and Windows Mobile. And we recently built our developer conference in San Francisco. We made a bold statement that we are aiming to have, within the next 2 to 3 years, 1 billion customers using Windows 10. So effectively, you guys could be developing a game or using the Universal Windows platform, potentially addressing all those devices with a target market for us of 1 billion customers in 2 to 3 years. We've been very, very aggressive. So we addressed the bottom, so you can still do what you do today. If you're interested in working with Microsoft and bringing your product to Windows Store, to the Windows 10 store, you have 3 different routes to that. As usual, you can work with a publisher, if you wish so. Or you can, as an ID at Xbox partner, bring your content to the Windows 10 store. Now, those two are highlighted in green, because what that means is if you're working with a publisher or you're an ID at Xbox developer, you will be able to use Xbox Live API on Windows 10 devices. So we will enable ID at Xbox developers to use Xbox Live, the full stack of Xbox Live, across all of those devices. And if you're not interested in working with a publisher or being an ID partner, you simply want to self-release on Windows 10, as some of you might have done on Windows 8 Store today, you can totally self-release without talking to us at all. And our vision is, in the next future, we're going to enable developers to use most of Xbox Live, even if you're not an ID at Xbox partner. But as of today, any of you is an ID at Xbox partner already. So if you guys have you're already an ID at Xbox partner, then you can get access to Xbox Live SDK today. So that is available for you today. Now, obviously, if you're working on a mobile game, so you're over there, that mobile game will likely run on a desktop PC, a gaming rig. If you're working on a high-end first-person shooter on a gaming rig, it's not going to work on a mobile phone, right? The important message is that the Universal Windows platform allows you to have a single code base and deploy across all those devices, but you don't have to. You decide which platform your game will ship on. So if you want to do a game that's only on the phone, you can totally release just on the phone. If you want to do a title that's only on the desktop, totally is your decision. We just enable you guys to address as many platforms as you want in the easiest possible way. So this is the one side of that slide. We are trying to provide you guys with a very, very fast, lean and easy approval process. So the moment you submit your Windows 10 game for all of those platforms, on the right side, we want to get your game tested and live on the store extremely quickly. I'm not going to commit to a timeline today, but we're really looking at best of industry kind of turnaround time. But Xbox is a different beast. A consumer who has bought an Xbox has bought an Xbox to play games. So they have a very, very different expectation from somebody who's playing games on their desktop, on their phones. We made a commitment to those customers that we would deliver a higher level of, not quality, but like certification and testing, and try to provide a product that they can trust. So the certification on Xbox will be slower than the one on the other endpoints for Windows 10. That's very, very important. We are always trying to improve it and make it as fast as flexible as important, but it will be slower. So I guess I can now look at the other side of this slide and focus for a moment on the Xbox platform. Why are there two ways to go to Xbox? And Andy will give more technical detail in a bit, but I'll give you like an overview. So Win 10 will roll out to all the endpoints, and we announced that it's coming to desktop and laptops during the summer, and then there's going to be like a staggered release across other devices. So Windows 10 will run on Xbox One at some point. Keeping a very, very high level, the Xbox runs effectively two operating systems. A very, very gaming optimized operating system, which is where pretty much all of the game are actually deployed to. And that operating system, your title, you will require dev kits to develop the titles. But also, Xbox runs Windows 8 today, and we run Windows 10 on the second operating system, which won't give you access to the full features or the full power of the Xbox. But for a lot of games, you will be able to have a single code base and deploy it there. So on the left side, that Xbox is the one that you develop for using traditional dev kits. And if you're doing a first-person shooter, that's going to be your path. But if you're doing a universal Windows platform, let's say a PC game, you will be able to take that code base, target the endpoint Xbox, and that will be able to run on the Xbox in the Windows 10 side of the Xbox platform. And as I said, on Xbox, a game is a game is a game. From an approval point and process point of view, doesn't matter which technology you're using. It doesn't matter if it's a universal Windows platform or a traditional XDK developed title. You will go through the same approval process. So all the Xbox games go through today. So as I said, on Xbox, it will be slightly slower and will have slightly different rules than a Windows 10 platform. So this sort of gives you an idea of the opportunity. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Andy to go up slightly more technical. We're not going to go too crazy from a technical point of view, but we give you a better idea of what it means from a development.
Hello. Yeah, the really exciting bit, the technical bit. Right. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, Ago's mentioned a few times this universal Windows platform. So what is it? As you can see, it's a collection of things. It's not just one thing, but it's the tools that we're giving you to be able to target any of those platforms: PCs, phones, Xboxes. You remember from the previous slides. Raspberry Pis, HoloLens. You don't have to target all at once. You know, it's up to you. You choose the lot or a subset. But it's this collection of tools that's going to help you get there. So starting with the app model, I think Windows 8 really for us, as an OS, certainly it was the first time we really thought about the concept of an app and this sort of contained package and trying to run something in a sandbox. that app will contain your binaries, or rather the package will. It will contain your content. And the system knows about it. It's got identity, and the OS for the first time is using that to do things like scheduling, resource allocation, and then also moving on to sort of packaging deployment. It's going to help it install and uninstall cleanly. So with packaging, this is about us providing the tools to you to get everything into what we call an Apex package. So your binaries, your game data, your config files. We don't want to have those, people choosing what they want to install and trying to deploy all these things individually. We just want to be pushing down one package, which is what that model is going to do. We provide an XML file, a manifest file that you will detail to tell OS, okay, this is what the app is, this is what it needs to do, these are the things that it comprises. Deployment, so we have a common deployment platform. That's about us getting that Apex package out to those users. We wanted to make it as simple as possible. Windows installers in the past haven't always been the best experience. So this is about getting that one Apex out to those users in a nice way. The other thing, I guess it's a cross between the packaging deployments. We sign those packages. So we'll encrypt those, and we're doing a lot of work around trying to detect tampering. Again, this is all about wanting to make sure the users are very confident that when they go to the store, they can download that game, they can download your game, they don't have to worry about it. It's not going to inflict their system with viruses. Update, that's patching. So we obviously provide a patching service. Gone are the days where you make a game and then run off to your next one. When you want to supply your patch to us, you've already got your base game out there. You will remake an Apex package, so you will just provide the whole game again to us, and then we do the heavy lifting and the hard work of saying, okay, but what are the differences, on an executable level and a data level? And we'll just push the minimal set of data out to the user. They won't have to download the whole app again. Just very quickly on the bottom row, licensing, it's about how do you sign up to be a developer, how do you provision a device, a phone or a tablet to be able to do your testing and what have you. We've tried to smooth that process out. You should be able to do it all from the device settings. It should be a do once, you don't have to renew every 30 or 60 days or whatever we did in the past. Store, Ago talked a little bit about, we won't go into detail. I guess the key point is still it's just this one store. You're going to eventually have not a separate export store, not a separate phone store, but just this one store that you're going to have the flexibility to choose, how you want to sell and at what price you want to sell out to these platforms. Tools and APIs, I guess for the engineers in the room, we talked a little bit about packaging. Ago mentioned Visual Studio. You're going to need Visual Studio 2015 for Windows 10. You can get that now if you sign up to be a Windows developer as a beta version. And then graphics-wise, it's DirectX, as I'm sure a lot of people know, but it's DirectX 11 or 12. I guess the final point on tools, we have, some of you may have used in the past, an ingestion tool called DevCenter. So it's a web-based tool. It's an evolution from Windows 8, so it works, it's robust, it's easy to use, but it's how you're going to get your content to us and how you're going to manage your metadata, do your pricing, all that sort of thing. API-wise, I could probably spend a whole hour talking about APIs. I won't. Suffice to say, there's a very rich and broad set of APIs there, much bigger than anything we've had in the past, to be able to target all those platforms. The key point, though, is this is one solution. You're going to open Visual Studio and you've got your one code base. So we wanted to make it very easy for you to be able to get to those other platforms, but manage them going forward. You will obviously have to change certain things. There'll be some things devices can do that others can't. But we're finding this is a really nice way for developers to move forward across all of these platforms without trying to maintain 8 different code bases. Okay, I'm going to have to click through this one. So a universal Windows app as opposed to the platform that... Oh, hello, question.
I have one question about the store. Because now the store will be unified. I have a question about store, because now that store is unified, I wonder how you will how the advertisement for products on the store will work. Different stores had more focus on different kinds of games, so I'm wondering how now it will work.
Okay, take this back, I guess. We're actually currently working on all that, so we don't have all the answer to all the questions today. But obviously, if you're accessing your the store from your phone or your desktop, or I think there's going to be a focus for the specific endpoint. One interesting thing that we have not mentioned, is not part of this presentation, that with all the Win 10 devices, we'll have the Xbox application installed. So the Xbox application is effectively Xbox Live Client, and also more and more features than that. But one of the interesting features is that you're going to have a list of all the games you purchased. And that's not going to just be on your PC or your, it's actually all in the same. So it doesn't matter if you bought a game on the mobile, it's a mobile game, or you have your Xbox. On the Xbox app, you will be able to see all the games. So we finally have this concept of, doesn't matter what the endpoint is, the Xbox experience you get is a unified experience. So yeah, more and more information will come through as we go along. Any more questions on, just as we have microphone here?
So if you have the app on multiple platforms or endpoints, however you call it, so if I sell my game, for example, for phone and for Xbox and for PC to the user, do they pay once or do they pay for each platform?
We give you the tools, so we give you the store, and you decide what the approach is going to be. So if you want, sell it once, and people get it on all the devices, it's your decision. If they are slightly different version, maybe you have one Xbox optimized and you have a mobile light version, and you think actually they are separate, that is down to you. You decide. We give you the tools, and you decide if you want to. You decide your business model for your game. So the feature is there. Sell it once, use it anywhere, and there are some more interesting info about what unifying the platform with Xbox Live means, but it's coming later on, so I'm not going to spoil this second part of the presentation. Any more on this particular subject? Only the first question, and then they all come.
Okay, so for the Xbox, we can choose between two to use traditional XDK or universal platform. So what is your suggest? Which one to use? Which one to use for the big game, like big FPS shooter?
If you have a big game and you want to access all the power of the Xbox, then you're gonna need a dev kit. That's gonna be the right path. And you know, if you have a lighter game, it doesn't need to be like a simple puzzle. It can be more complicated than that, and more. You could look at both solutions. But if you're looking at doing like a big Unreal Engine-based big game and lots of explosions and particles everywhere, million of polygons, your path is going to be the XDK. From a consumer point of view, it doesn't matter. They don't know that there is a difference. Actually, today, on Xbox One, there are a couple of games. One is 3, the puzzle game, that's actually being developed not with Windows 10 technology, because it's not that yet, but it's not actually developed with a dev kit. It's more like a universal application. And there is another, Ninjatsu, it's another game. Already, it's not a game developed with XDK. It's been a game that's been developed with the UAP platform. So, and the consumers can't tell. There's no difference. It's more like a technical thing. And if you're doing a big game, as I guess you are, then you probably want to go down the dev kits. One thing some developer ask us, well, if I start using the universal Windows application and then realize I actually need more power, well, just tell us and we're gonna send the dev kits out. So you can actually start from that, and then you say, oh, actually, I should probably get more power, and then you can use the XDK. But the important message is like, the universal Windows app on Xbox is not just for simple puzzle game. You can do so much more than that.
Oh, yeah. It's just to kind of reiterate that point. You're not losing any of the features per se of the Xbox. What you are doing is getting less GPU power, less CPU power, and less memory. However, it's not a tiny amount. I'm just not sure whether I can divulge the actual specs. So you'll find yeah, as I said, it's not just a simple puzzle game that will run in there. Yeah, if you're looking at a Call of Duty-esque FPS, you know, and you're going to really need every ounce of hardware power, then you would go down the XDK route.
And from a commercial point of view, as the question was about selling one, so if your game is too resource demanding to run as a universal Windows app on the Xbox, and so you go down the traditional path of XDK developed title, but then on Windows 10 Store on PC, you have a universal application. From a consumer point of view, you can still sell once and get it everywhere. So the consumers don't actually see what your development path has been. There's no distinction for them. So that's very, very important.
Trying to drop it. Right, so where was I? Okay, yes, Universal Windows Apps. So if you remember before the questions, we're talking about the platform. So use the platform to make the apps. I just wanted to call out, these are distinct. They are different to your classic Windows apps that many of the PC developers in the room will have made. The beauty of them is you can target all these devices and you can do it all from that one source base. There are other kind of minor technical differences, but that's the beauty of these apps. I'm going to have to click through this, aren't I? Right. Yeah, I mentioned before that we have this package that contains your data. It might not just be one binary. There could be multiple binaries in there. If you're targeting phones and PCs, you may have x64, you may have ARM executables. And then also on the resources side, this isn't about just one big bundle of game data that all the users, no matter whether running on a phone or a PC, are going to download. You'll be able to say, I want my phone-specific assets here, my PC-specific, and my incredibly high-res assets over here. And so on our side, when we deploy, we'll just push out the right assets to the right people. They won't get everything. Okay, yeah, the Universal Windows apps, they have characteristics. I briefly mentioned identity. So this is about the OS really knowing what that app is, where it came from, what's contained in it, largely via these manifest files that we asked you to describe. And that's how it can do a much better job of installing and uninstalling and its resource allocation. We have storage available. It would be bad if we didn't. We have per user and per title storage. That's both local, that also gets backed up in the cloud, but also roaming. So it's a smaller amount of memory available, but you can choose to say, I want this roaming. So if a user's playing on his PC, then goes off and wants to play on his phone, you really can pick up and play, and we'll auto synchronize the profile and save data between them. Application lifecycle, for those who've done some Xbox stuff, they'll probably recognize it. This is about people needing to be able to suspend and resume apps these days, but not just within a session. So somebody might suspend the app, be going off and doing something else, turn the machine off and come back a couple of days later. And we'll provide the hooks that you can save off your data quickly enough that when the user does come back a couple of days later, they'll be able to pick up and play. Rich API surface, so yeah, we've obviously got this common core and device extensions you can pull in. I just wanted to say we will provide ways for you to enumerate what devices can do and then light up the appropriate APIs. But also, if you are trying to use a largely common API, such as resizing a window, if you're on a phone and the phone only supports full screen, we're making sure these APIs degrade gracefully. You're not going to find, oh, my app crashes, I can't use that API. You'll be able to handle it and just move on. Again, a way of sort of creating this one source base that's just going to work for you. Final point, the UWAs and classic Windows apps. So without going into a lot of detail, essentially all these apps can call into your Win32 APIs, your COM, your Windows RT APIs to some degree. And I have a question. It's okay?
So when you start talking about different apps, that you can deploy to different devices, so do you have what kind of one project, one source project, and also what kind of .NET framework version are you supporting, or is it downgraded, kind of stuff? Thank you.
Okay, so yes, this was about, okay, so I do want to target more than one of these things, and how would I do that? So I said earlier on, you've got one solution. So I couldn't quote the .NET version. You're going to need Visual Studio 2015, but you're going to open one solution in Visual Studio 2015, and within there, you will see different projects. If anybody's ever done any Windows 8 Universal Apps, this is an evolution of the Windows 8 Universal Apps. So it's not something brand new, but you would essentially just have one code base, one solution. And from within there will be separate little projects that might pull out the device-specific things, but you're not going to have to maintain a code base over here for phone and then go up and load another code base for PC. That's not how it works. This is about making it easy for you to develop. Does that answer it?
That's the first
Yes? I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah, Visual Studio 2015. It's not going to work in any of the older ones. I don't know off the top of my head. If you come and see me afterwards, I can probably find out before the end of the day. Okay? Right. Okay, so those last slides have really been talking about native Windows 10, native universal Windows app development. But what if you've got a code base, as it sounds like many of you have, a Win32 PC code base, or you're a mobile developer that fancies, dipping your toe into the PC space? Is there a way we can help you get that across quickly? Kind of a leading question, really. Yes, there is. So I'm just going to put them all up at once. At Build, we announced 3 very cool tools. Project Centennial, to be able to get your Win32 apps across quickly. We've got Astoria for your Android apps, and Islandwood for your iOS. So these are all ways of taking your existing game, your existing code base, and getting those packaged up as an AppX, as a Windows 10 application. They've all got the same end result. They all work in slightly different ways. I'll talk about Centennial in a second, because there's quite a few PC users in the room. With Astoria, we literally upload and analyze your Android package. We'll call out things like maybe Google services that are not going to work, and suggest Windows services as replacements. I don't have an exact figure of exactly how much then automatically gets converted, but we're hearing about 80% often of code that just works. We're just getting it across. It's going to vary from app to app, but it's just a very quick route for you to get across to that Windows space. Islandwood, completely different way. We let you actually import your Xcode project directly into Visual Studio 2015. And now you can natively work on Objective-C inside Visual Studio, which is really cool. So your whole develop, test, debug cycles just from within Visual Studio, but you're spitting out a Windows application.
And one thing to call out just very quickly. So Project Astoria is rebuilding Android apps for the Windows Mobile. So we're targeting mobile space. But with Islandwood, and we demoed this build. I think we had like a iPad app that we actually exported and brought to the Windows PC as well. So it's a slightly different target. So Astoria is focused on Windows Mobile, while Islandwood from iOS is more for Windows 10 wider.
Yeah, needless to say, it went down very well at Build. It was a big surprise, especially the iOS one, I think. Okay. So Centennial. I mentioned it's the classic Win32 app wanting to get to UWA quickly. I guess a quick why, it's a fairly obvious reason, but with this and the others, talking to a lot of developers, they wanted a way to be able to quickly get there. A lot of them are quite interested in going native at some point in terms of the UWA, but wanted to, to test it out without taking on as much work as it would have been. So what's the problem? Well, those apps don't have an app model. These Win32 apps were from a time where we hadn't thought about that. And also the installers I've mentioned, they can litter the registry with entries. They can push files pretty much anywhere on the system. And it's very hard to keep things contained and secure, and to give that user that trust that, well, if I don't like this thing, I want to be able to get rid of it, and in its entirety. And I don't want 3 years on to have to flatten my machine, because all of a sudden it's really slow and I've got files everywhere and I don't know what they do anymore. So what did we do? Well, we've made this tool. Again, I won't go into a lot of detail, but essentially what you need to do is run your installer once more, as though you're installing the game as a user. This thing sits behind it, and it's going to analyze and capture exactly what's going on. It's going to build this AppX package that can run in the container, and it's going to do things like redirect registry entries. So it's not going to go to a global registry that that the whole system knows about. It's going to look like it does, but it doesn't. We contain everything within it. But again, it's just a very quick way of you suddenly going, right, I've got my Win32 app, now I've got my UWA. When? Yes, with all of these, it is working now. We've had real apps even on stage, demoed as coming across. There isn't yet an official release date. Soon. I guess my take would be, if you really wanted to get started right now on Windows 10, and please do, go down that native route. If you're thinking, crikey, I just don't have the time, but desperately want to at some point, then yes, when this does come along, it could potentially be quicker if you've got an existing code base. Oh yeah, okay. A couple of other things worth a mention. Centennial apps run as full trust user privilege. So what I mean by that really is they can start to call some APIs that we don't let native UWAs call anymore. So there is a potential to do things to a user's system with these that you couldn't with a UWA, so it's just be careful. The reason we let that happen was when looking at what we needed to do to get Centennial working and to be able to get a lot of apps across quickly and minimize developers' pain. If we hadn't done that, it was going to be a whole lot more hurt for a developer. So we've chosen to do it. It's just be careful. Final one is, would I be able to sell my Centennial app outside the store? So you've got a Win32 app that you're selling from a website at the moment. Yes, you can. If you do come across to our store, brilliant. You know, we can help you promote, help people find your app, but you can sideload this via your own website. Okay, Xbox Live. So I'm guessing most people are familiar with Xbox Live, or at least heard of it. I guess at its heart, it's a social network plus a set of online services, but it's gaming specific. It's all about giving gamers what they want. The great thing now is we're bringing this behind Windows 10 full stop. So it doesn't matter what your device is. There is just one Xbox Live platform now behind Windows 10. From a user's point of view, Ago mentioned there's going to be an Xbox app. So this will be core and integral to every Windows 10 download. This isn't something optional. It's going to be there in a start menu. And clicking on that is going to be a user's window, if you like, into the Xbox Live world. Feature-wise, I may be preaching to people who already know, but you've got the social side of things. So your friends graph, you've got your activity feeds, you've got things like leaderboards, game clips, and game DVR. Many people are familiar with game DVR. So on an Xbox, there is a ring buffer that continually records what's going on in a game. And at any point, either as a developer or as a user, you can choose to go, oh, that was really cool. You know, it's a really great unexpected moment in a game. I'm going to post that video up and share it. Game experience, data platform, it's all about analytics. So maybe analytics for yourselves to understand what people are doing or to surface in interesting ways to the user. Achievements, most people have heard about. You know, cool game rewards you can brag about. And then finally, multiplayer. So we provide an extensive set of libraries, you know, whether you want to do client-server, peer-to-peer. We provide the libraries to create those sessions, manage them, joins, invites, disconnects, all that sort of thing. We've got a very cool cloud matchmaking service where you can, you know, actually configure and data drive how you want people to matchmake, so you get the right set of players within your game playing each other. We've got quality of service tools to analyze people's connections and try and determine who should be the host. There's a whole bunch of great stuff in there. So Xbox Live on Windows 10, I just kind of wanted to finish with, you know, in a nutshell, what does it mean as a developer then, and what does it mean as a player? I think as a developer, the main thing is it's this one API. You know, you're not going to have to write some network code or try to hook into a service on a PC and then think, gosh, how am I going to do that on my phone, or how am I going to do that on my Xbox? This is one common API, which is going to be very scalable for you going forward when you develop. I think from a player's point of view, it's really talking to Ago's point. We're hoping to get to over 1 billion players, 1 billion users on Windows 10 within a couple of years. So that's going to be an incredibly rich and deep, you know, social graph and gaming graph you're going to be able to tap into. Final point, a few people asked about it, so I put it on there. As well as doing PC to PC multiplayer or Xbox to Xbox multiplayer, we'll give you the option and the hooks if you want. You can have people playing their PC versus their Xbox, which is very cool. We've got a game Fable that's coming out soon that's showcasing that. It's working technology now. You don't have to do it, but it really does broaden that networking community for you if you do. Right, I'm about to hand the mic back, so if there's any questions. Oh, right.
I have a question about bridging Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 apps to Windows 10. Is that even a possibility, or would we have to do a rewrite?
Is that about Xbox Live?
Bridging Windows 8, because you told about Project Centennial.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Is there a project to bridge Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 apps?
Not that I know of yet. Does that preclude that something would ever appear? You know, not necessarily, but no. At the moment, the only bridging apps we have are from a classic Win32 or from Android and iOS.
Any more question for Eddie? Okay, thanks. What's next? Okay, we talked a lot about the Universal Windows Application Platform, and we talked about the fact that the application you're developing using with the technology, with our platform, will also run on Xbox. So it's pretty straightforward to understand how you're going to be testing them on a phone or on a PC. But what about Xbox? So at E3, at GDC, we actually talked about it. So in the future, we're going to allow you guys that are developing a universal app that is targeting Xbox to effectively test that app on a Xbox One console, a retail console. So you go to a shop, buy an Xbox One, and you will be able to use that retail unit to test. So you can do all your development on your PC, and then you can sideload it to the Xbox One that you purchase in a shop, and you can totally test it. So we already talked about Windows 10 games on Xbox One live in the Xbox One system side, system space. We already covered what that means from a development based on the game. And the first step we're going to take is to allow people to test and experiment. And then later on, we're going to enable developers to actually sell those applications. But the first step we want to take is to allow people to experiment. Now, from our point of view, this is a great opportunity for professional developers that want to bring their games to Xbox using the universal platform. But it's also great for people that are just at home tinkering and learning how to program a game, or university students. So it's actually a wider appeal than just professional game developers that are making a living out of it. So the next slide is actually an overview of what we discussed so far. Is just to wrap it up. There are a lot of messages we are trying to deliver when we do this presentation. And I just want to give you a picture of, again, of your paths. So if you're a developer currently working on a game and you want to go to Windows 10, you have different routes. So on the left side in dark blue, you have a classic Windows application, Win32, and you can totally do, when Windows 10 comes out, what you do today. Self-publish on Steam, Desura, your own website. Nothing has changed from that point of view. Windows was and is and will be an open platform. At the center, you have the universal Windows application. So you register on Windows Dev Center, and you can bring your content to all these devices, to the Windows Store, to all these devices. If you're interested in Xbox Live, then you can also register as an Indeed Xbox developer if you're not already registered as an Indeed Xbox developer, and you will be able to use Xbox Live API across all the devices, Win 10 devices your game is targeting. We talked about how very soon you will be able to bring your universal Windows app to Xbox as an Indeed Xbox partner with Xbox Live integration. But as in the case of the gentleman who left earlier, if you have a highly demanding game that needs all the power it can get from the Xbox, nothing is changing. We're still supporting, we will always support the standard XDK-based console games where you can totally self-publish as an Indeed Xbox partner using the dev kits that we provide to you guys for free. So some of you who came here early when we were sort of trying to get this up and running noticed that we had a video and we're having a few issues. So before GDC, we gave a group of developers access to Windows 10 SDK and an earlier version of the Xbox Live SDK. And what we asked those developers whether they were interested in bringing their content to GDC and sort of test it out and see how it went. And we asked them to give us some feedback. So what I want to share is the feedback we got from the developer had a chance already to work on Windows 10.
I think the dream over the years for a lot of game developers is that we can actually release a game and engage multiple audiences. When Microsoft announced that they're going to actually support cross-play across all their devices, we've heard this before, and so I was a little bit skeptical. But then once we got our hands on Windows and the APIs and started to fool around with it, it was amazing to see that it really does work.
We work with custom technology. It's our own engine, and all the APIs and all the plugins, everything, it's pretty seamless.
I was sold on Windows 10 the moment we realized that you can actually copy text from anywhere in Windows and paste it into a command prompt. That's a miracle in and of itself.
From going to Xbox One to Windows 10, it's been amazing that I can just almost just switch the compiler to compile for Windows 10 and it works. It's a lot nicer than having to rewrite a majority of low-level code.
Crossplay for Blowfish Studios or Siegecraft Commander is huge because it's actually a game that plays really well across mouse and keyboard, gamepad, and even touchscreen. So what this does is allow us to give the game to everybody and for them to play, multiplayer with each other.
We've always wanted to allow players to buy a piece of content and play it wherever they are, whether it's on their phone, their Xbox One, or their PC.
A normal porting process, you would expect like 2 weeks to 4 weeks just to get it up and going. And I mean, just to say, hey, we had it up and running day one and 24 hours later we had it on the store, that's pretty shocking.
Now we're thinking of it more like holistically. We're taking the PC player and the console player and thinking about them together.
Microsoft is the only company that's in that position to be able to do that because nobody else has a desktop kind of gaming platform and a gaming console platform.
It's a great time right now. It's exciting. It feels like something new is happening. So we're just grateful to be a part of it.
Unifying all these experiences is going to be really important in the gaming space. And the fact that they're recognizing that and bringing that back to PC is really important for developers like us.
If you're developing for console or you plan to develop for Xbox One, I can't think of any reason why you wouldn't want to develop for Windows 10 as well.
I don't know what that was. Okay. So yeah, that's the feedback we got from the developer, and those were some of the titles we already announced coming to Windows 10, and you probably spotted this War of Mine from the very polished 11-bit studio. So yeah, they were one of the early guys that got involved with this. So coming to the conclusion, I don't even know how we are doing for timing. We are fine, great. So Windows 10, maximizing your opportunity. You know what your opportunities are. We just want to point out a few things that are worth considering. The first one is these are all one platform. They're just different endpoints and form factor for the same platform. And whatever game you're developing today, there is a place for your game on these platforms. The second one is you should focus on designing for your devices. Different devices have different specs, and you decide which platform you want to bring your product to. As we mentioned earlier, the fact that we have a universal Windows platform doesn't mean you need to support all the endpoints of this platform. You decide where to go. But don't ignore opportunistic devices. So if you're working on a game that is focused on mobile, but actually that game could work on a Surface style or touchscreen style device like a laptop, or could work with mouse and keyboard, or could work with the controller. Don't ignore the other devices, because thanks to the way you're developing your game with the Universal Windows platform, it means that very, very low resources are needed to target all the different devices. And also one important thing, and Andy really talked about this earlier, everything you do and learn on one of these devices applies to all the other devices. The fact that you have one single code base means that if you're working on mobile for the next 6 to 8 months, what you've learned on Windows 10 mobile effectively it will apply to Windows 10 desktop form factor or any other form factor. So you don't have different code bases, different APIs. It's a unified environment. So you keep learning. So, and back for a second, focus on ID at Xbox rather than just the wider Windows 10 message is, what are the benefits? One is self-publishing on Xbox One. We've been saying this for the last couple of years. Everybody knows about this. Also, in the Windows 10 world, it means that if you're an ID at Xbox partner, you're able to get access to the Xbox Live social network today. You get access to a lot of aggregate data that we have as a platform. And very important, you can work with us on getting advice on pricing, or launch dates, and market condition. The very nature of independent developer means that you're probably working on one or two titles every 18 months. And that means in those 18 months, so many things are changing. The market keeps changing on a quarterly basis. We do events like this. We do private sessions where we go into more details, and with our one-to-one sessions, we do all sorts of things to try to support developers and share what we learned on other titles. You know, we learn every day, and we share our learnings with you guys. And also, Microsoft as an organization has a lot of people working at a very local level. We have the DX Polish team around here today. Some of my colleagues were in the audience. I think I had to leave. And you can actually leverage these resources we have at local level. And they do a lot of activities for developers on a very, very local level. So I think those are the key benefits. And for anybody who joined us slightly later in the presentation, but also for the people that were in the presentation throughout, please remember this link. In an hour and a half, we can't really deliver everything we would want to deliver in terms of messages and information. But if you go to xbox.com/dev, you have access to all information about gaming in the Windows ecosystem. So that's it from us. Do you guys have any more questions? You've been pretty good, actually, I have to say, throughout the presentation, asking questions. Any more at the end? Anybody? It's your opportunity. I always say to developer, ask questions they are not supposed to ask. Mike Bethel, Thomas Was Alone, there's a famous quote from Mike is, he became successful mostly because he asked questions he didn't know he was not supposed to ask. So it's your opportunity. That's it, just a little bit of encouragement.
So how can we become an Xbox partner? We are a developer, game developer, and I'd like to know.
Yeah, actually, very good question. I could just say go to xbox.com/dev and leave it there, but you have to go there. But it's very, very important that when you apply to become an ID at Xbox partner, when you do your submission of the information, you tell us as much as you can about the company, the team, the game. You know, we received a lot of applications, and sometimes that there's not even a game in development. So it's very, very important that you help us understanding that actually you're a real team, that you're actually doing a real title. Because quite often we get application and people just want to play around with the dev kits. And you know, if we give the dev kits to the wrong people, there are people that are waiting for dev kits. And so we need to make sure that we give it to the right people. And so help us provide as many info as you can. That's always the recommendation. And sometimes you're still not getting the dev kit, so reach out to us regularly. We send actually anybody who has applied on a monthly basis. We send a newsletter with the latest information, and we ask people to send updated information. So we are trying to be as inclusive as we can and as helpful as we can. Our Twitter handle ID_Xbox. Send a message there if you don't hear back from us. Any reason? Myself, Chris Chala in the US, we're always very accessible. We try to be as fast coming back to people as possible. And the recommendation, another one is message us on Twitter. Emails is a very bad tool. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to remove my email address from the presentation. Twitter is a fantastic tool. So if you don't hear back, or sometimes we have developers just recommending other developers on Twitter. Say, look, Ago, have you seen this game? And then we reach out and try to be as fast as we can. Question here? Have I answered your question?
So how long does it take for the games now? What is the turnover time until we get our game to Xbox One, for example, or if there's any help from you or from someone else in Czech Republic or Poland or Slovakia, with publishing on a Windows Phone Store or Windows Store?
That's a very wide question. When the Indie revolution started, everybody thought, oh, we're going to self-publish. We don't want to work with publishers anymore. That's it. We're done. Actually, what we learned over the years that there is a new type of publishers. They are now born out of the digital era. So you have teams like Team 17, Carr Studio, Grip Games in Czech Republic, and tons, Deck 13 in Germany. I shouldn't leave anybody out, but there are a lot on Idea at Xbox. They're actually helping developer publishing their products. So, and all those routes are open. So quite often we have Idea at Xbox developer with a title approved for publishing, and they come to us and say, oh, now I'm working with this publisher. Yeah, there are plenty of opportunity, and go out and talk to people. I mean, you're a company, go out, try to meet as many people as you can, and try to find that opportunity for you. And how long a game takes to go to market, that depends. I mean, your development time and then our process. And we try to make our technical times as short as we can. So that's under our control in a way. But then how long is a piece of string? Depends on the game and your experience as a developer, your publishing strategy, your marketing planning. So there is an entire presentation that can be made actually on self-publishing. And I used to do those kind of presentations in the past. I sort of stopped because now people understand it a bit more. But I'm actually thinking to bringing those presentations back because there are always new developers that have never done it before. So, and one word of advice, talk to developers that are in your same situation. Talk to developers that they are very, very open to share their experience. This is a fantastic time in our industry where all the independents are actually happy to share data, info, their experience, contacts. We never, I mean, for all the people like me and Andy, sorry, this was not the case 15 years ago. You guys are in a fantastic time in the industry. Just be brave, ask the question you're not supposed to ask, reach out to people that you think will never reply. We have people messaging Phil Spencer. I'm not saying he messaged Phil Spencer, but on Twitter, Phil is always engaging with everybody. He's trying to be as active as possible. This was not possible even 5 years ago. Was a question here? Was it from you? Or somebody had a...
I raised my hand. And I had this question. How do you move up in the priority queue for the ID Xbox?
We're trying to send out as many dev kits as possible. So that's what we're trying to do. Give us information. I mean, maybe you applied 6 months ago, 1 year ago, and you were a starter of the project. Re-engage. You have the contact details. Re-email people, say, this is where we are now. One other thing that we're doing with the DX local teams is actually to sort of work with the local community very actively to try to make sure that we don't miss any opportunity, because obviously it's an opportunity for you guys, but it's also an opportunity for us. And, since I joined, we really stepped up the effort in Europe. We're a big enough team, but, there are a lot of developers we want to engage, and stuff like that happens. It's like, oh God. If there was a question about dev kits, if it's a question about visibility, like a wider question, sometimes we get asked, okay, just about that, and we can take it, have a chat after that. Yeah, just give us information. One thing I should point out is that now, maybe not your case, I don't know, but a lot of developers will actually be able to pretty much get to the completion of a product. If you're using Unity, for instance, or Unreal, you don't actually need the dev kits that early. When I was in development, without the dev kit, you wouldn't be able to do much at all. Now, with the tools we have available, most of your development, you don't actually touch the dev kit, and it's only needed at a later stage when we're really going on the platform features. So that's another advantage. But yeah, reach out to us. And any more questions at the back of the room? At the front of the room? Oh, that.
Since you mentioned Unity both at the beginning and towards the end of the talk, what are the steps required to turn a Unity game into a universal Windows app?
Unity haven't announced a fixed date for when they're going to support universal Windows apps, but they are. So I actually haven't tried myself and said, okay, exactly what do I need to click on in that UI? But my guess would be However, you're building your cross-platform games in Unity at the moment, you will just be able to use a UWA as another target platform within Unity. It's coming soon, just don't have a formal date yet.
And actually, they do support already universal application for Windows 8. So we said that Win 10 is an evolution of the platform as a much improved version, but in Unity you can already target universal application platform for Windows 8. So it's already there. They're working on the evolution. And at Build, they announced that they're supporting the platform and they're supporting HoloLens. There was a whole presentation. So it's going to be a similar way. Anyone wants to ask the final question, I guess? Okay. Oh, okay. I nearly said thank you so much, but...
Yeah, if I have a game that's basically ready for deployment on the Xbox, would you just come over the street and I can show it to you? Or you, Andy?
Yes, but tomorrow morning. Soon I'm done here, I actually have a press interview. So tomorrow morning, yeah. And yeah, happy to play the game. That's why we are here. Oh, actually, Andy is coming. Yeah, you can pop in. Thanks so much for coming. Hopefully it was helpful. Xbox.com/dev if you want clarification or more information. My Twitter handle was there. Reach out. Thank you so much.